Hey everyone, Dr. Nuesse from EasyDOTphysicals.com back again with another video. This one is specifically for commercial drivers who potentially drink alcohol. And what we are going to discuss is how the DOT detects and defines alcoholism, how many drinks the Department of Transportation feels is too many, and when you might be tested. So it will be important to know this information if you do drink alcohol, maybe even on occasion, and you need to have a DOT physical performed. So first, a big thank you to all of my channel subscribers and members. We just hit 40,000 subscribers for helping to keep this channel going and for helping to spread this information to others who may need it. All right, so let's talk about using alcohol, drinking, and what we are looking for as the doctor during the DOT physical. So first, I am going to use the term alcoholism. I'm going to use that term because it's the term that the FMCSA uses in its literature. And I know there's sometimes a stigma with this word, and some of the literature prefers alcohol use disorder or alcohol dependence. So my use of the term alcoholism is not a judgment. It covers all of these terms, and it's simply the descriptive word that I'm using to align with the FMCSA literature. All right, so let's first talk about testing. So alcohol testing is done through a simple breathalyzer, and this could be done for a number of different reasons. One is if you are suspected to be drinking on the job or using alcohol and it might affect your work. So this is suspicion. So if you are suspected, you could be sent for an alcohol test. After an accident, a significant accident, you could be sent for an alcohol test as part of a treatment program. So if you are going through treatment for alcoholism, you may be required to have this breathalyzer done, or pre-employment. Now, pre-employment is the only one that is not required by the federal government. So it is not required before you get hired to have an alcohol screening done, a breathalyzer done, but the company that you've been hired by may require it as part of the pre-employment process, but it's not a federal requirement. So if you ever fail a breathalyzer, if you ever fail an alcohol test, you are immediately then removed from any safety-sensitive work like driving until you complete the return to duty process. And I've done a complete separate video on the return to duty process. All right, so that's the testing. Now, what are we looking for? What are the doctors looking for when you come in to get your DOT physical done as it pertains to alcohol and alcohol use? So the FMCSA does give us some direction here. So they, and again, I'm quoting them here, require that you have no current clinical diagnosis of alcoholism. So what does this mean? So what happens if you were diagnosed with alcoholism, I don't know, a decade ago or in your youth, and it's been a long time? So this can be okay. So some time will need to pass, but you do need to be in remission or recovery. So if you're in remission or recovery, you can still complete the DOT physical and get a certification. But if you've got active alcoholism, this is a disqualifier. So how we might know this is if you put it in your paperwork. So if you just write it in your paperwork that you were just recently diagnosed as an alcoholic or with alcohol dependency or any of these terms, that will be disqualifying. Or potentially if you're taking a medication to treat alcoholism currently, like antabuse, that will be a huge red flag as well. So that would typically mean that there is a current diagnosis of alcohol dependency or alcoholism. And even though taking antabuse is not specifically banned by the FMCSA, it will likely cause a disqualification if you put it on your paperwork because it indicates active alcoholism. All right, so next let's talk about how many drinks the Department of Transportation, the FMCSA, deems as too many. And they're pretty clear on this as well. So on your intake paperwork, there is going to be a box to check if you use alcohol or not. And if you check yes there, the doctor will ask, or should ask, how many alcoholic drinks do you have per week? So 14 drinks per week is the number that we will be looking for. If you state that you drink more than 14 drinks per week, alcoholism is then expected. Okay, so then what happens? So what happens if you mark that you drink 14 or 15 beers per week? So then doctors are then directed to administer a questionnaire. So we will ask you a series of questions. So we'll administer a questionnaire to further drill down on if the driver might be an alcoholic. And the most common questionnaire, and the one that I use, is the CAGE questionnaire, C-A-G-E questionnaire. And this is a screening tool. The acronym CAGE stands for the areas of concern assessed by the question. So the C in CAGE is cutting down. So we will ask you the question, have you ever felt like you needed to cut down on your alcohol use? The A is annoyance by criticism. We will ask you, are you ever annoyed by other people criticizing your drinking? The G is guilty feeling. We will ask you, do you ever feel guilty about your drinking? And the E is eye opener. And the question there is, do you ever feel like you need a drink in the morning, an eye opener, just to get yourself going? So the magic number again here is if you answer yes to 2 or more of those questions, then alcoholism is suspected. Okay, so just to be very, very clear, let me explain how this might go. I'm going to kind of give you a flow chart here because it's important to be very clear on this information if your job is on the line, if you're going in to get a DOT physical performed and you do drink alcohol, which a lot of people do. So first, if you check yes on the box on your intake paperwork, that will trigger the doctor to ask further questions. If you check no, we just skip through it. It's a non-issue. But if you check yes, the doctor will most likely and should ask, how many drinks do you have per week? There are 2 options here, basically. If you answer 13 drinks or less, the questioning then stops and we move on. Alcoholism is not suspected. If you answer 14 drinks or more, then the doctor must ask a screening question, a questionnaire. Again, most likely the CAGE questionnaire that I went over, but it could be another questionnaire. And if you answer yes to 1 of those questions or less, or 0, then the questions again stop. Alcoholism is not suspected. We move on. If you answer yes to 2 or more of those questions, alcohol is suspected, and most likely you will need further evaluation by a specialist before you can be certified. All right, so that's everything. Please ask me any alcohol-related questions, something that you might be concerned with, in the comment section below. Like this video so that we can spread this information, and stay subscribed for future updates to standards. All right, drivers, until next time, stay safe.